My friend's mom denied cancer treatment to desperate families until they were useful to her politics. So I got 137 families to testify. She got 5 years in prison and had to pay back $500,000. I wanted to throw up. All those nights we'd stayed up planning fundraisers. All those families we'd helped. And she'd been using us as political props the whole time. You can't do that without our permission, Jamie said, his voice shaking. Mrs. Fitzgerald's smile widened. Actually, I can. As the adult board member who helped establish this organization, I have certain rights. Besides, you should be proud. You're helping shape policy. Maya stood up so fast, her chair scraped against the floor. My family went through hell thinking we couldn't afford treatment. My parents fought about money every night. My little brother heard them talking about selling the house. Character building, Mrs. Fitzgerald said, examining her manicure. And look how strong you've become. I grabbed the meeting minutes from the table. These say you've been taking a 15% administrative fee from every donation. The room went silent. Mrs. Fitzgerald's smile finally faltered. That's standard nonprofit practice, she said quickly. Operating costs. You never told us about any fee, Lucy said. We thought all the money went to families. Where's that money going? I pressed. Mrs. Fitzgerald stood up, smoothing her skirt. I think we're done here. And Maya, dear, you should be careful about making accusations. There might have been some paperwork errors with your treatment coverage. It would be terrible if your family became liable for the full amount retroactively. Maya's mom went white. What are you talking about? Oh, just that hospital billing is so complex. Sometimes forms get misfiled. Coverage gets revoked. These things happen. She picked up her purse. I'll see you all next week. Bradley, we're leaving. Bradley didn't move. His face had turned red, and he was staring at the table. Bradley, now. He followed her out, but not before mouthing, I'm sorry to me. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that 15%. We'd raised over $50,000 total. That meant Mrs. Fitzgerald had taken $7,500 without telling anyone. I started digging through our files at 3 in the morning. Every donation receipt, every bank statement. The administrative fees were there, buried in the transfers between accounts. Always exactly 15%, always transferred to a separate account none of us had access to. By dawn, I'd found something else. 3 other youth organizations in nearby towns had dissolved in the past 6 years. Each one had helped fundraise for political campaigns before suddenly shutting down. The campaign they'd supported? Mrs. Fitzgerald's husband's previous runs for various offices. I called Maya first. We need to have an emergency meeting. Without Mrs. Fitzgerald, we met in Jamie's basement because his mom worked nights and wouldn't ask questions. I spread out all the papers I'd printed. She's done this before, I said. 3 times. Sets up youth organizations, uses them for political gain, then shuts them down. We need to record the next board meeting, Maya said. Get her admitting to taking that money. That's illegal, Lucy warned. Illinois is a 2-party consent state for recordings. So we tell her we're recording for meeting minutes, I said. If she admits to anything while being recorded, that's on her. The next board meeting was scheduled for Thursday. I bought a digital recorder and put it in the middle of the table. For accurate minutes, I announced when Mrs. Fitzgerald walked in. She eyed the recorder but sat down. Actually, I'm glad you're taking this seriously. We need to discuss restructuring. What kind of restructuring? Jamie asked. Well, given the growth of the organization, we need more adult oversight. I've asked my son Trevor to join as legal counsel. The door opened, and a man in an expensive suit walked in. He looked like Bradley, but with cold eyes. Trevor Fitzgerald, attorney at law, he said, not bothering to shake hands. I understand there have been some questions about financial management. We just want transparency, I said. And you'll have it, Trevor said, after we implement proper procedures, starting with this. He slid a paper across the table. A cease and desist order for any recordings of board meetings without written consent from all parties. But we announced we were recording, Maya protested. Announcement isn't consent, Trevor said. In fact, recording without proper consent could be considered wiretapping. That's a Class 4 felony in Illinois. My hands were shaking as I turned off the recorder. Good, Mrs. Fitzgerald said. Now, let's discuss the real issue. This organization has grown beyond teenage management. It's time for adult leadership to take over. This is our organization, I said. We started it. Without proper nonprofit registration, Trevor added. Without tax ID numbers. Without liability insurance. You're one accident away from personal lawsuits that could destroy your families. So help us fix it, Lucy said. That's exactly what we're doing, Mrs. Fitzgerald smiled. Trevor will handle all the paperwork. For a small legal fee, of course. 15% of gross donations is standard. I felt sick. Another 15% on top of what she was already taking. We need to think about it, I managed. Of course, Mrs. Fitzgerald said. Take the weekend. But remember, Maya's treatment coverage is still being reviewed. These things can be so complicated. After they left, we sat in stunned silence. She's threatening us, Jamie finally said. We need help, I said. Real help. That's when I remembered Mr. Peterson, the man whose insulin we'd helped pay for. He'd mentioned being retired but never said from what. I found him at the senior center playing checkers. Mr. Peterson, I'm sorry to bother you, but we need advice about our nonprofit. He studied me over his glasses. What kind of trouble are you kids in? I told him everything. The 15%, the threats, Trevor's cease and desist. He listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding. You know what I did before I retired? He asked when I finished. I shook my head. IRS auditor. 35 years catching people like Mrs. Fitzgerald. He smiled. Let me make some calls. The next morning, our nonprofit's bank account was frozen. The bank said there had been suspicious activity reports filed suggesting potential fraud. My phone exploded with texts from parents demanding to know why their donation checks had bounced. The local news picked up the story by lunch. "Teen charity mismanages funds," read the headline. The article quoted anonymous sources, saying we were in over our heads, that money was missing, that families weren't getting help they were promised. Mrs. Fitzgerald called an emergency board meeting that afternoon. "This is what happens when children play with real money," she said, looking satisfied. "But I have a solution. My husband's campaign needs success stories. Appear in his ads, talk about how the community came together, and I'll unfreeze the accounts and make sure the news prints a retraction." "You froze our account," Maya accused. "I filed concerns about financial irregularities," Mrs. Fitzgerald corrected, "which is my duty as a board member, but I can just as easily file paperwork saying it was all a misunderstanding." "What about the families who need help now?" I asked. "They'll have to wait until you make the right decision," she said. That night, my parents found me crying over my laptop, trying to respond to angry emails from families we'd promised to help. "Maybe you should just do what she wants," my mom said gently. "It's just a few campaign ads. She's stealing money, Mom. She's using sick kids for political gain." "You don't have proof," my dad pointed out, "and she's connected. The Fitzgeralds know everyone in this town. So we just give up? Let her win?" My mom sat down beside me. "Sometimes you have to pick your battles." Maya could have died thinking her family couldn't afford treatment. "That's not a battle, Mom. That's wrong." My dad sighed. "Show me the books." We spent the next 3 hours going through everything. My dad's accounting experience helped him spot patterns I'd missed. Money moving between accounts, always ending up in the one we couldn't access. "She's been treating this like her personal fund," he said finally. "But without proper nonprofit paperwork, it's hard to prove wrongdoing." "Wait, what?" I stared at him. "What do you mean without proper paperwork?" He pulled up the state database. "There's no registration for your organization. No 501c3 filing. Nothing." My mom leaned over his shoulder. "She never filed the paperwork? Which means she's been collecting donations under false pretenses," my dad said slowly. "That's actual fraud." The country club called the next morning. Our summer program venue access had been revoked, effective immediately. Mrs. Fitzgerald was on their board too. Other venues started canceling. The community center, the library, even the park district said we couldn't use their spaces anymore. "We'll teach in my garage again," I told the others at our emergency meeting. "She's trying to shut us down," Lucy said. "Let her try," Maya said. Her eyes were fierce. "I'm done being scared of her." We spent the weekend gathering every receipt, every bank statement, every scrap of paper we could find. My dad helped us build a timeline showing exactly where every dollar went. Mr. Peterson introduced us to 2 other retired IRS auditors who volunteered to help. They found more patterns, more evidence of Mrs. Fitzgerald treating our funds like her personal account. "You need to document everything," one advised. "Every interaction, every threat, every conversation." Mrs. Fitzgerald called another board meeting for Monday. This time she brought 3 lawyers besides Trevor. "I'm prepared to make you a very generous offer," she said. "Full college recommendation letters for all of you. Guaranteed internships at the hospital. All you have to do is sign this agreement stating there were no financial irregularities and appear in one campaign event." She slid papers across the table. The agreement was 8 pages of legal text. "We're not signing anything," I said. "Then I'm afraid I'll have to share some concerning information with the community," she said, "about how Maya exaggerated her illness for sympathy donations, how her family was never really at risk." Maya stood up so fast her chair fell over. "How dare you? I have documentation showing your treatment was covered from day one," Mrs. Fitzgerald continued calmly. "It might look like fraud to some people. You told us it was covered after we raised the money," Jamie said. "We have witnesses." "Do you? Because I remember it differently, and so does my son, and these lawyers." That's when Bradley walked in. His face was pale, and he wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. "Tell them, Bradley," his mother commanded. "Tell them how the coverage was always there." Bradley stood frozen in the doorway. His hands were shaking. "Bradley," his mother's voice turned sharp. "Tell them." "I can't," he whispered. "Excuse me? I can't lie anymore, Mom." His voice got stronger. "I know what you've been doing. I've known for years." The room went silent. Mrs. Fitzgerald's face turned red. "Bradley, you don't know what you're saying. I helped you dissolve the other organizations," he continued. "I thought I was helping, but I know now it was wrong. The Helping Hands Youth Group, the Future Leaders Initiative, the Community Cares Program. You took money from all of them." "Bradley," his mother stood up. "We're leaving. Now." "No," he said. "I'm done. These are my friends, and you're destroying something good they built." Mrs. Fitzgerald grabbed her purse. "You'll regret this, all of you." After she stormed out with her lawyers, Bradley sank into a chair. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have said something sooner." "Why didn't you?" Maya asked. "She's my mom," he said simply, "and she always made it sound like she was helping, like the money was going to good causes eventually, but it never did." Bradley's confession changed everything. Within minutes of his mother leaving, he pulled out his phone and started showing us screenshots of old emails, dissolved organization documents, and bank transfers dating back years. His hands trembled as he swiped through file after file. "The Helping Hands Youth Group raised $32,000 for homeless veterans," he explained, pointing to a spreadsheet. "Mom took her cut and convinced them to donate the rest to Dad's first campaign. Then she dissolved it, claiming lack of interest." I grabbed a notebook and started writing down every detail. Maya leaned over Bradley's shoulder, her face growing paler with each revelation. "The Future Leaders Initiative was supposed to fund college prep courses courses for low-income students, Bradley continued. They raised $48,000. Mom restructured it into a political action committee without telling the student founders. Jamie slammed his fist on the table. How many kids didn't get to college because of her? I don't know, Bradley admitted. I was younger then. I just did what she told me. Filed the paperwork, closed the accounts. Lucy had been quietly typing on her laptop. I found the Community Cares program. Their Facebook page is still up. Look at these comments. She turned the screen toward us. Dozens of angry posts from families asking where their assistance money went, why the program suddenly ended, what happened to their applications for help. My phone buzzed. A text from my dad. News vans at the house. Don't come home yet. The story had exploded beyond the local paper. Apparently someone had leaked that our nonprofit's account was frozen with thousands in donations trapped inside. Parents were calling the news stations demanding answers. We need to get ahead of this, I said. If we let her control the narrative, we're done. Mr. Peterson called while we were still strategizing. Don't talk to any reporters yet, he warned. My colleagues found something interesting in the state charity database. Meet us at the diner on 5th Street in an hour. We piled into Jamie's mom's van, Bradley included. He sat hunched in the back seat, staring at his phone as message after message popped up. His mother, his father, family friends, all demanding to know what he'd done. The diner was nearly empty when we arrived. Mr. Peterson sat in a corner booth with two other older men, papers spread across the table. They'd ordered coffee and pie for everyone, but none of us could eat. Margaret Chen, former IRS Criminal Division, the woman introduced herself. And this is Theo Rodriguez, forensic accountant. We've been looking into your situation. Theo pushed a document toward me. Your organization never existed legally. Mrs. Fitzgerald never filed the incorporation papers, never got tax-exempt status, nothing. But she's been representing it as a registered nonprofit to donors. That's wire fraud if any donations came through electronic transfer, Margaret added. Mail fraud if any came through the postal service, and tax fraud if she didn't report the income. But we can't prove she took the money, I pointed out. The account she controls isn't in her name. Actually, Bradley spoke up, his voice hoarse. It is, kind of. He pulled out his phone again. The account is registered to FitzCare Foundation. Mom set it up 3 years ago. She's the only signatory. Margaret's eyes sharpened. FitzCare Foundation? That's registered as a private foundation, not a public charity. Different rules, different oversight, much easier to hide personal use. She told me it was for family charitable giving, Bradley said. I helped her set it up. I thought we were doing good things. Theo was already pulling up records on his tablet. FitzCare Foundation. Let's see. Interesting. Very interesting. Regular transfers in, but look at these expenses. Catering services, event planning, consulting fees, all paid to companies that donated to Dad's campaigns, Bradley said quietly. It's how they get around contribution limits. The weight of what we were uncovering settled over the table. This wasn't just about our nonprofit. This was systematic, deliberate, and had been going on for years. We need to document everything, Margaret said. Every transaction, every connection. Bradley, are you willing to provide evidence? He nodded without hesitation. I have access to Mom's home office. She keeps physical records of everything. She doesn't trust digital-only storage. That's breaking and entering, Lucy warned. Not if I live there, Bradley said. It's still my house, for now. We spent the next 2 hours creating a plan. Bradley would gather documents that night while his mother attended a hospital board gala. The rest of us would compile everything we'd already found into a comprehensive timeline. Mr. Peterson and his colleagues would review everything and advise us on next steps. Be careful, Margaret warned as we prepared to leave. People like Mrs. Fitzgerald don't give up easily when cornered. She'll escalate. She was right. By the time I got home, my parents were fielding their 5th call from reporters. My mom looked exhausted, my dad grim. Mrs. Fitzgerald went on the evening news, my mom said. She expressed deep concern about our financial management and suggested the state attorney general should investigate. I sank onto the couch. She's trying to make us look like criminals. She also mentioned you by name, my dad added. Said you were a well-meaning but naive teenager who got in over your head. Called it a cautionary tale about youth activism without adult supervision. My phone had 37 missed calls. Parents, donors, families we'd helped. I started returning them one by one, explaining that we were working to resolve the situation, that their donations were safe, that we would make things right. Maya called around midnight. My parents want me to quit the organization. They're scared of what Mrs. Fitzgerald might do about my medical coverage. She can't actually revoke it, I said, hoping I was right. Can't she? Bradley's mom sits on the hospital board. She has influence everywhere. I didn't have a good answer for that. Bradley texted at 2 a.m. Got everything. You need to see this. Can't use phone. Might be monitored. Meet tomorrow morning. Usual place. I barely slept. When my alarm went off at 6, I found my mom already awake, making coffee. I've been thinking, she said, about what you said, about battles worth fighting. She poured 2 cups and handed me one. When I got pregnant with you, everyone told me my life was over. No degree, no career, no future. But I fought for us anyway. Built a life anyway. Mom, Mrs. Fitzgerald is wrong. What you built isn't naive. It's exactly what this community needs. Real help for real people, not political photo ops. Dad thinks we should just let it go. Your father is protective. He doesn't want to see you hurt. But sometimes protecting you means teaching you to fight smart, not teaching you to give up. She pulled out her laptop. I spent all night researching. Mrs. Fitzgerald might control the money, but she doesn't control the story. We need to tell your side before she buries you completely. We met Bradley at the the garage where we'd held our first classes. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept either. The boxes he'd brought made my stomach drop. 3 bankers' boxes full of documents. This goes back 7 years, he said, pulling out folders. Every organization she's touched, every dollar she's diverted. But that's not the worst part. He handed me a folder marked Medical Hardship Review Committee. Inside were applications for hospital financial assistance, dozens of them. Each one stamped denied with Mrs. Fitzgerald's signature. She denied Maya's family's first application, Bradley said. Before you even started fundraising, she knew they were desperate. That's why she approved it later, to manipulate all of you. Maya grabbed the folder, flipping through until she found her family's application. The denial reason read, insufficient demonstrated need. Insufficient need? Maya's voice cracked. We were talking about selling our house. Look at the approval patterns. Bradley pointed to a spreadsheet. She denies families until they're desperate, then approves them if they can be useful, either for publicity or political connections. Jamie found his family's application in the stack, denied twice before Bradley's mom suddenly approved it, after our nonprofit started gaining attention. She's been playing God with people's lives, Lucy said. It gets worse, Bradley said. He pulled out another folder. These are the consulting contracts she awards through the hospital. Look at the names. Every contractor had also donated to Mr. Fitzgerald's campaigns. The amounts were staggering. $100,000 contracts for vague advisory services that seemed to produce no actual work. This is evidence of kickbacks, Mr. Peterson said when we showed him everything that afternoon. Hospital funds flowing to political donors. That's public corruption. So we can stop her? I asked. We can try, but we need to be strategic. She's already controlling the media narrative. We need something dramatic to shift public opinion. That's when Maya surprised us all. The town council meeting. It's tomorrow night. During public comment, anyone can speak for 3 minutes. She'll be there, Jamie pointed out. Her husband is presenting his campaign platform. Exactly, Maya said. Maximum audience. Media coverage. We show up with evidence and testimonies from families she's hurt. That's risky, Margaret warned. She could spin it as teenagers making unsubstantiated accusations. Not if we have receipts, I said. Not if we have Bradley testifying. Not if we have dozens of denied families telling their stories. We spent the next 24 hours in overdrive. Lucy created a presentation with charts showing the money flow. Jamie reached out to every family we'd found in the denied applications. I worked with my mom to craft a media statement that would be ready to release the moment we finished speaking. Bradley was the bravest of all. He sat with Mr. Peterson's colleague, Theo, going through every document, creating an affidavit that detailed his mother's schemes over the years. She'll never forgive me, he said as he signed it. Do you need her to? Theo asked gently. Bradley thought for a moment. No, I need to forgive myself. The morning of the town council meeting, Mrs. Fitzgerald struck again. Every family that had agreed to speak received a letter from Trevor's law firm threatening legal action for defamation if they participated in spreading false allegations. Half of them backed out immediately. Jamie's mom was crying when she called to say they couldn't risk it with their immigration status still pending. She's scared, my dad observed. Lawyers' letters mean she knows you have something real, but we were scared too. Our list of speakers had dwindled from 23 to 8, and we still didn't know if the council would even let us speak. Mrs. Fitzgerald had connections there too. That afternoon, she made one last play. My mom got a call from her boss at the marketing firm where she worked. He said there were concerns about my judgment, my mom told me after, letting my teenager run wild with other people's money. He strongly suggested I get you under control or look for another job. Mom, I'm so sorry. Don't you dare apologize. I told him if he wanted to fire me for supporting my daughter doing the right thing, I'd make sure every client knew why. What did he say? He backtracked fast, but the message was clear. Mrs. Fitzgerald has reach everywhere. As evening approached, I stood in my room looking at the boxes of evidence we'd assembled. Bank records, denied applications, testimony from Bradley, forensic accounting reports. It felt like both too much and not enough. Maya texted our group. Whatever happens tonight, I'm proud of what we built. They can take our money, but they can't take what we did for each other. The council chambers were packed when we arrived. Mrs. Fitzgerald sat in the front row with her husband and Trevor, looking perfectly composed in a designer suit. She smiled when she saw us, the kind of smile that made my skin crawl. During his campaign presentation, Mr. Fitzgerald spoke about the importance of community initiatives and self-reliance. He actually cited our nonprofit as an example, conveniently leaving out that his wife had frozen our funds and was trying to destroy us. When public comment opened, we lined up at the microphone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my notes. The council president, an older man who'd known the Fitzgeralds for decades, looked down at us over his glasses. I understand several people want to speak about the same issue. In the interest of time, we'll limit this topic to 10 minutes total. That's not standard procedure, someone called out from the audience. I turned to see Mr. Peterson standing up. Public comment rules allow 3 minutes per person, no matter the topic. I'm aware of the rules, the president said coldly, but we have discretion. Actually, you don't. A woman in the back stood up. Margaret Chen. State open meeting laws are very clear. You can't limit public comment based on content. The president's face reddened, but he had no choice. Fine, 3 minutes each. I went first. My voice shook as I introduced myself and explained how our nonprofit had started, how we'd raised thousands to help families in need, how Mrs. Fitzgerald had taken administrative fees without telling calling us, frozen our accounts, and threatened families who questioned her. These are serious accusations, the president interrupted. Do you have proof? I held up the folder of bank records. Everything is documented here. We're happy to provide copies to the council and the media. Mrs. Fitzgerald stood up. May I address these slanderous claims? During public comment, the public speaks, Margaret Chen called out. You'll have to wait your turn like everyone else. Maya went next. She talked about her cancer diagnosis, the bills, the fear, how Mrs. Fitzgerald had denied their assistance application while knowing they were desperate. Her voice broke when she described her little brother asking if they were going to lose their house. One by one, the other families told their stories, medical bills that went unpaid while Mrs. Fitzgerald played politics, children who suffered while she decided if their families were useful enough to help. Then Bradley took the microphone. The room went completely silent. Mrs. Fitzgerald's composed mask finally cracked. Bradley, don't do this, she said loudly. My name is Bradley Fitzgerald, he said, ignoring her, and I need to tell the truth about what my mother has been doing. He laid it all out, the dissolved organizations, the diverted funds, the systematic way she'd used charity as a cover for political money laundering. He spoke for his full 3 minutes, then yielded the floor. I have more to say, he added, but I'll wait my turn like everyone else. The 10-minute limit the president had tried to impose would have silenced us. Instead, we spoke for nearly an hour. Family after family, story after story, evidence pile after evidence pile. When it was finally over, the council president cleared his throat. These are serious allegations that deserve investigation. We'll forward everything to the appropriate authorities. No need, a voice said from the back. A man in a suit stood up, holding out a badge. Agent Martinez, FBI. We've been investigating financial irregularities at several local nonprofits. This testimony has been very helpful. Mrs. Fitzgerald's face went white. Trevor immediately stood up, putting himself between his mother and the agent. My client has nothing to say without counsel present, he announced. That's fine, Agent Martinez said. We'll be in touch. Don't leave town. The meeting erupted into chaos. Reporters rushed toward us with questions. Mrs. Fitzgerald pushed through the crowd toward the exit. Her perfect composure finally shattered, but she stopped at our group, her eyes focusing on me with pure hatred. You stupid little girl, she hissed. You have no idea what you've done. I was trying to help you, all of you, and this is how you repay me? You were helping yourself, I said, finding my voice steady for the first time all night. We were just kids trying to help our friends, and you turned us into your personal piggy bank and political props. I gave you opportunity. You gave us lies, Maya interrupted. You let my family think I might die because it was useful to you. That's not opportunity. That's cruelty. Mrs. Fitzgerald's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Then Trevor grabbed her arm and pulled her away. This isn't over, he called back. We'll sue every one of you for defamation. Good luck with that, Margaret Chen said cheerfully. Truth is an absolute defense. As the crowd dispersed, Agent Martinez approached our group. I'll need copies of all your documentation, and I'll want to interview each of you separately. Are we in trouble? Lucy asked. No, you're witnesses. And from what I've seen tonight, you've done excellent investigative work. Ever consider careers in law enforcement? We spent the rest of the night at the diner, too wired to go home. Bradley sat quietly, staring at his phone as message after message came in from his family. You can stay with us, Jamie offered. My mom already said yes. Thanks, Bradley said. I think I'll need to. Mr. Peterson and his colleagues joined us, looking satisfied. You kids did good, Margaret said. Real good. But this is just the beginning. The Fitzgeralds will fight back hard. She was right. By morning, Trevor had filed a defamation lawsuit naming all of us, our parents, and even Mr. Peterson's group. The hospital announced they were reviewing Mrs. Fitzgerald's position, pending an internal investigation. Mr. Fitzgerald withdrew from the state Senate race, citing family matters. But something else happened too. Our story went viral. Not the version Mrs. Fitzgerald had tried to spin, but the real story. Teenagers who'd tried to help their community and uncovered corruption in the process. Donations started pouring in from across the country, not to Mrs. Fitzgerald's frozen account, but to a properly registered nonprofit Mr. Peterson helped us establish. We need to do this right this time, I told the others as we filled out the real paperwork. Complete transparency, proper oversight, no administrative fees hidden in the fine print, and no political connections, Maya added firmly. We were sitting in my garage again, the same place where it all started, but everything had changed. Bradley was living with Jamie's family, basically disowned by his parents. The FBI investigation was ongoing. We all had lawyers now, pro bono thanks to Margaret's connections. And we had something else too. 137 families had reached out wanting to share their stories about being denied help by Mrs. Fitzgerald over the years. Journalists were investigating her other connections. The state attorney general had opened a formal inquiry into the hospital's financial practices. Think she regrets it? Lucy asked. Taking that 15%? No, Bradley said quietly. She regrets getting caught. That's all she's ever regretted. My phone buzzed with another donation notification. $500 from someone in Oregon who'd read our story. The message read, "Keep fighting. The world needs more kids like you." I thought about all the families still waiting for help, all the medical bills and emergencies and desperate needs that didn't stop just because we'd exposed one corrupt person. We had work to do, real work this time, with proper oversight and legal protection. So what now? Jamie asked. I looked around at my friends, Maya, who'd faced cancer and corruption with equal courage. Bradley, who'd chosen truth over family. Lucy and Jamie, who'd risked everything to stand up for what was right. Now we rebuild, I said, the right way, and we help every family she turned away. All of them? Maya asked. Every single one. It would take months to sort through the legal mess. The FBI investigation would uncover even more than we'd found, including connections to other political families across the state. Mrs. Fitzgerald would eventually plead guilty to wire fraud and money laundering, though her sentence would be lighter than any of us thought fair. But that was all still to come. Right now, we were just teenagers in a garage, trying to figure out how to actually change things, how to build something that couldn't be corrupted or twisted or stolen. We need a new name, Bradley suggested. Something that shows what we really stand for. Community first, Maya said immediately. No politics, no hidden fees, just neighbors helping neighbors. We voted unanimously. As the others started planning our next steps, I stepped outside for some air. The weight of everything that had happened, everything still to come, felt overwhelming. My mom found me there. You okay? I don't know, I admitted. I wanted to help Maya, that's all. I never wanted any of this. I know, honey. But sometimes doing the right thing leads places we don't expect. Mrs. Fitzgerald had power, connections, money. We're just kids. No, my mom said firmly. You're citizens. You're community members. You're people who saw something wrong and refused to look away. That's the most powerful thing there is. A car pulled up to our house. My dad got out, carrying boxes of pizza. Figured you kids would be hungry, he called, and possibly planning to overthrow more corrupt officials. Dad, we didn't overthrow anyone. Sure looked like it from where I was sitting. He grinned. Proud of you, kiddo. Even if you did break the spirit of our no-job rule. Technically still not employed, I pointed out. Technicalities, he laughed. The family business. As we headed back inside, I thought about that. How this had started with me finding a loophole in my parents' rule and had ended with us exposing years of corruption. How Maya's cancer had led to us helping hundreds of families. How something terrible had become something powerful. Mrs. Fitzgerald was wrong about us being naive. We'd known exactly what we were doing. We were helping our friends. Everything else, the corruption and threats and FBI investigations, that was just what happened when someone tried to stop us, and they'd failed. We had our money back, or would once the legal stuff was sorted. We had a real nonprofit now, with proper oversight, and a board of community members who actually cared about helping people. We had the truth on our side. Most importantly, we had each other. And we had a garage full of teenagers ready to learn life skills, with every dollar going exactly where we promised it would. Mrs. Fitzgerald had called us stupid little children playing with real money. Maybe we were, but we were also something else. We were proof that sometimes the stupid little children win. The next week brought a whirlwind of legal meetings. Agent Martinez interviewed each of us separately at the federal building downtown. My parents hired a lawyer who specialized in whistleblower cases, though she assured us we weren't in any legal danger. You exposed corruption, she explained during our first meeting. That makes you witnesses, not defendants. Bradley's interviews lasted the longest. He'd brought copies of everything from his mother's home office, including emails dating back to when he was 12 years old. The FBI agents treated him gently, understanding how hard it was to testify against his own mother. Mrs. Fitzgerald's lawyers tried every trick to discredit us. They filed motions claiming we'd stolen confidential documents, that Bradley had violated attorney-client privilege by sharing Trevor's communications, that we'd orchestrated a smear campaign against a respected community leader. Each motion failed. The judge, a no-nonsense woman who'd seen plenty of corruption cases, dismissed their arguments one by one. These teenagers uncovered systematic fraud, she stated during one hearing. The defendants' attempts to silence them through legal intimidation only reinforces the validity of their claims. The hospital board moved faster than the courts. Within 2 weeks of the town council meeting, they'd suspended Mrs. Fitzgerald pending investigation. An independent audit revealed she'd diverted over $300,000 through various schemes over 7 years. Bradley found out through a text from his father, who'd been traveling for business during the council meeting. His dad flew home immediately and filed for divorce the same day he landed. He says he didn't know, Bradley told us over lunch at Jamie's house. Maybe he didn't want to know. The media attention intensified. Reporters from Chicago drove down to interview us. A documentary filmmaker reached out wanting to tell our story. My parents fielded calls from morning shows and podcasts. We're not doing any of it, my mom declared. This isn't about fame. It's about fixing what she broke. We focused on rebuilding. The properly registered Community First nonprofit held its first official board meeting in the high school cafeteria. Mr. Peterson served as interim president while we established bylaws that prevented any single person from controlling funds. Complete transparency, he emphasized as we drafted the rules. Every donation tracked, every expense public, every decision voted on by the full board. Families started reaching out immediately. Not just locals, but people from neighboring towns who'd heard our story. A single mom whose daughter needed insulin. An elderly man whose Medicare wouldn't cover a necessary surgery. A family whose house had burned down and insurance was dragging its feet. We helped them all, using the donations that continued flowing in from across the country. Each case was voted on by the board, each payment documented and posted on our website. Maya designed a tracking system that showed exactly where every dollar went. No hidden fees, no administrative percentages, no political connections. connections. Just neighbors helping neighbors, like she'd said. The Fitzgerald house went up for sale 3 weeks after the council meeting. Bradley's dad moved to a condo downtown, and Bradley officially moved in with Jamie's family. His mother relocated to her sister's house 2 states away while awaiting trial. She called me once, Bradley mentioned while we were sorting donation receipts. Said I'd destroyed our family legacy. What did you tell her? Lucy asked. That she destroyed it herself. I just stopped helping her hide it. Trevor's law firm quietly dropped him as a partner. The State Bar Association opened an ethics investigation into his role in the schemes. He moved to Texas before they could complete it. Our summer program had to be completely restructured since we'd lost the country club venue. But something amazing happened. Local businesses started offering their spaces. The mechanic shop taught car maintenance. The restaurant let us use their kitchen during off hours for cooking classes. The bank provided a conference room for financial literacy sessions. This is better anyway, Maya observed as she watched kids learning to change oil in an actual garage. More real than some country club classroom. The FBI investigation expanded beyond Mrs. and Fitzgerald. They found connections to 3 other hospital board members who'd been part of the contracting schemes, a state senator who'd received suspicious donations, a construction company that had won bids through kickback arrangements. You kids pulled a thread, Agent Martinez told us during one update meeting, and a whole network unraveled. Bradley struggled with the revelations. Each new person arrested, each new scheme uncovered, was someone he'd known his whole life. People who'd come to his birthday parties, who'd sponsored his little league team. I keep wondering if any of it was real, he confided one evening, or if everyone was just using everyone else. The answer came from unexpected places. Families we'd helped started volunteering for the nonprofit, teaching classes, organizing fundraisers, serving on committees. They weren't connected to the Fitzgerald network. They were just grateful people paying it forward. Mrs. Chen, whose son we'd helped get autism therapy, taught Mandarin classes. Mr. Rodriguez, whose wife's cancer treatment we'd partially funded, offered free tax preparation. The Johnsons, who'd nearly lost their home, organized a benefit concert that raised $12,000. This is what community actually looks like, my mom said, watching the concert, not whatever performance Mrs. Fitzgerald was directing. The trial date was set for 6 months out. Mrs. Fitzgerald's lawyers kept pushing for delays, filing motion after motion, but the evidence was overwhelming. Forensic accountants traced every dollar. Former board members from the dissolved organizations testified about her manipulation. Hospital employees revealed how she'd threatened their jobs if they questioned her decisions. Bradley testified via video link to avoid seeing his mother in person. He detailed every organization she'd dissolved, every fund she'd diverted, every family she'd denied help while extracting money for political gain. I loved my mother, he said at the end of his testimony, but I couldn't love what she was doing anymore. The prosecutor presented our case as David versus Goliath, teenagers with notebooks and determination against a woman with wealth and connections. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours, guilty on all counts: wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, tax evasion. The judge sentenced her to 5 years in federal prison and ordered restitution of over $500,000. It's not enough, Maya said as we watched the news coverage. Not for all the damage she did, but the real justice came from what we built afterward. Community First grew beyond anything we'd imagined. Chapters opened in neighboring towns. Other teenagers reached out wanting to start similar programs. We created a handbook sharing everything we'd learned, including the mistakes. The summer program enrolled 200 kids across 5 locations. Real skills taught by real people. No political agenda attached. Bradley became one of the most popular instructors, teaching the life skills his mother had hired us to show him years ago. Funny how that worked out, he said, after a particularly successful cooking class where nobody burned anything. College application season arrived faster than expected. I'd been so focused on the nonprofit that I'd barely thought about my own future. But when I opened my email one morning, there it was, an acceptance letter from Northwestern, full scholarship. The scholarship fund was established by anonymous donors, the letter read. However, they wanted you to know it was funded by families whose lives you've touched through Community First. I found out later that 43 families had contributed. Some gave $20, others gave thousands. Maya's family organized the whole thing without telling me. You gave us hope when we had none, Maya's mom explained when I tried to protest. This is just us returning the favor. Maya got into art school in Chicago, full ride based on her portfolio, which included paintings she'd created during chemo. Lucy was accepted to pre-med at University of Illinois. Jamie received a scholarship to study education at DePaul. Bradley surprised everyone by deferring Yale for a gap year. I want to make sure Community First is solid before I leave, he explained. And honestly, I need time to figure out who I am without my family's expectations. The night before I left for Northwestern, we held one last board meeting in my garage, the same space where it all started. We'd come full circle, but everything had changed. Mr. Peterson officially stepped down as president, handing leadership to a coalition of community members, parents who'd volunteered, local business owners who'd donated space, families we'd helped who wanted to help others. You kids started something special, he said, but it's bigger than you now, and that's exactly how it should be. We signed over all control, keeping only advisory roles we could maintain from college. The organization would continue without about us, run by the community it served. After everyone left, the 5 of us sat in the garage eating pizza and remembering. The terror of those first days after Mrs. Fitzgerald's threats, the chaos of the council meeting, the surreal experience of testifying to the FBI. Would you do it again? Jamie asked, knowing everything that would happen. Yes, Maya answered immediately. My family got help. Other families got help. That's worth any amount of trouble. Bradley nodded. I spent my whole life enabling her schemes. At least I finally did something right. We all did, I said. My parents drove me to Northwestern the next morning, the same school my mom had left 20 years ago. But this time was different. This time, I was going with their full support and a community's investment in my future.